episode 2 of season 2 of How to Get Away with the JD. You guys have been asking a lot about what it takes to be successful in law school. A lot of pre-law students have been asking what it takes to be successful on the LSAT to then get to law school. And then, selfish reasons, I've been trying to figure out what it looks like to take the bar, right? So I decided to pack it all into one episode. And today I have a special guest with me, Professor Ferguson, who will talk to us a little bit about what she's seen from her personal experience and some of the things that she's done in order to be successful in the law school realm, get into law school and things like that. So I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then we're going to get started today.
Perfect. Good morning, Phelan. Hi, everybody. My name is Shalana Scales-Ferguson, and I serve as the Director of Academic Success at the University of Missouri School of Law. I'm also a licensed attorney, have gone through the law school journey and the experience of preparing for and getting through the bar exam. So I'm excited to talk to you all today.
Yeah, so I was like, Director of Academic Success, like, come on, this makes the most sense, right? So here we are today to answer some of you guys' burning questions. So there will be no listener letters today because everything that I'm asking is what you all have been asking me and, some of my personal stuff too. So just to get started, we're going to start at the beginning of the journey, right? Like the very start point. You have to take the LSAT before you can go anywhere, and you got to do all that, right? So one of the biggest questions that I get from a lot of listeners is the LSAT. Like, it's this whole grand thing. It's changed because, the pandemic, which is why, Zoom. Zoom is Zoom. So they want to know, what exactly does it take, or like what tips or advice do you have for somebody preparing for the LSAT in terms of what they should be doing, how they should be studying, and things of that nature?
Mm-hmm. So I always tell students, I work with pre-law students as well, quite a bit, and they ask these questions. And the first thing I tell them is to make sure that they understand what the LSAT is, right? So we kind of have this notion of you've taken the ACT, you go, you register for the test, you do a couple of little things, look at the little book or whatever, and then show up. This is not what that is. So first and foremost, you need to understand, what is the LSAT? What are they testing? What is the format of the test? So the best way to do that is to start by going to the Law School Admissions Council's website. That's the organization that administers the website, the LSAT exam. And they also have a web-based program where you submit all of your application materials to the law school. So you need to really get to know that website, see what information is out there. As you prepare for the test, look at the section on the LSAT. Make sure you understand the sections. They're testing a particular set of skills. This isn't to test your knowledge based on what you learned in college. So you're going to have to learn these particular skills. And the best way to do that is through preparation. So starting by taking a diagnostic full-length LSAT test to just kind of see where you are, where are you starting with these skills? What's your baseline? So that can help you identify what areas you may be stronger at already, where you might need to put more of your work. So go to that website. Be prepared to prepare. Right. So again, don't just show up for the LSAT after, hanging out with a Kaplan book or whatever you get from online. Y'all do online. I would be a Barnes and Noble, but
Fair.
There are resources out there. There are some LSAT prep courses that cost. If you are fortunate enough to be in that situation, that might be a good option for you. If not, Khan Academy has a free program that is accessible through the Law School Admission Council's website. So I always tell people, don't feel bad if you don't have the money for it, because they've, since I've taken the LSAT, this wasn't a thing back then, but they've identified a partner that they feel strongly about in their ability to prepare students for the LSAT. So I'm like, if this is the resource out of all those that are out there that they're making available, the people who make and control the test, might not be a bad idea to start there. So definitely that piece. And kind of look at your date that you're planning to take the LSAT and work backwards. And hopefully that backwards is more than a 4-week period, right? Or however long, like whatever the last day is to register. Give yourself some months to really delve into that process. So I have students ask me all the time, when is the best time to take it? It depends on where you are in life, right? So if you're still an undergraduate student, like in your junior year or so, I say the best, most ideal time is probably to take it in that summer between your junior and senior year, because you're not balancing all your classes. Some people may have internships or other things that they're doing, but it might be the best shot for you to have a period where you're not particularly overwhelmed. If you are in a different phase of life, have already graduated or been out of school for some time, you just got to get it in when you can get it in, right? But again, making sure that you're being realistic about it. I would say at minimum, be about 4 months out thinking on how to do that, but that's definitely minimum. Because again, you want to give yourself an opportunity to learn this exam and figure out how to take it, how to get the endurance, because of course it's a timed exam. Now we're in the pandemic. It is an online exam, whereas it used to be an in-person exam. So that comes with different dynamics in terms of how good is your technology. Do you have reliable internet service where you reside, or do you need to make arrangements to take this in another place? So there are a whole lot of factors that come into play in this day and age that are new to me. And it's also ongoing. I've heard some horror stories already about some people taking the LSAT flex. So, the best thing you can do is just be prepared as best you can, be game ready and make sure this is something you want to commit to. And I think by giving yourself an extended period to study and learn, that's teeing you up to understand what it's going to be like in law school. And you can start thinking about, is this something I really want to do, or is this a passing thought? And then you wake up and say, yeah, maybe not.
No, that's actually real. For me, when I started studying, I was out. Like I was done. For those of you who watch and listen, you all know I took 2 years out. So when I was doing this, I was on my own. Not much, not many resources. I didn't even know about Khan Academy. So definitely, they don't pay me. So this is actually a shameless plug. Make sure you guys check out Khan Academy, because they do offer like some really good resources, and it's free. And I personally can't argue with things that are free that are gonna help me. That's just me, how my life is set up. But make sure you guys take advantage. I know people who are currently using it or have used it in the past, and it's really good. They have the practice exams. They score you, so you know where you're sitting. You know what you need to work on. So that's a really good tool for those who are considering law school. Start there, figure out your base, and then create a plan, because a plan is very important. I did not have a plan personally when I started this journey, again, because I was by myself. So I was take the LSAT on a whim the first time. Okay, here we are. We did decent. Let's try again. Let's see what happens this time. And so like I took the LSAT twice. They're expensive. Like the exam is expensive. The whole process is actually expensive, but that's another story for another day. So make sure you guys are doing what you have to do to cut your cost as much as possible, because you don't want to be out here taking the LSAT like 50, 11 times, and that doesn't even look good when it comes to like admissions. So you want to make sure that you're properly preparing yourself, and then take advantage of your resources. Like Professor Ferguson said, there's just so much out there now. We're in, well, both of our times are different at this point, thanks to the pandemic, right? I took the exam in person, 4 hours, suffering, watching other people cry, the whole 9 yards. Like I did all that. And now you guys have the option to take it online with 3 sections instead of the 4. And so make sure you know what you're getting into when you take the exam, because yeah, if you don't know, I don't understand how I don't get it. Like, proper planning, right? But the LSAT is only half the battle. So once you take the LSAT, you're doing your things. A lot of students ask me all the time, oh my God, I didn't do like well on the LSAT, or I didn't do what I thought I was going to do on the LSAT. So what, to you, in your experience, like seeing the students that you currently work with and have worked with in the past, a lot of students are worried about like that score in combination, like everything else they've done in undergrad to get into law school. And people are like, oh, I don't have like the 150, 155, 160. I'm not competitive. I'm not going to get. So to debunk some myths and to ease some hearts, what are some things that you've seen from like student package wise that you would want to relay to some listeners in terms of being prepared and getting themselves together and just taking into account that everybody's different?
Mm-hmm. So the law school application process is like a delicate dance that you're doing, right? So the LSAT is a very important component, but it's not the only component, right? Sometimes, even with preparing and taking courses and practicing and all that, sometimes you reach a point where that's just your range, right? And that's okay. Um, if there is a particular law school you're looking at, it's important to look at kind of what their profiles are. They post kind of where medians are for GPA and LSAT scores and these other factors. See where you are in that. And even if you're outside of the range, it doesn't necessarily mean don't apply. It means set realistic expectations, right? And don't just apply to one school. Like if you're really trying to do the law school thing, cast your net wide and find schools in a lot of different tiers, as they call them, as far as how schools are ranked. Having that information, I think, will kind of set you up in a situation where you aren't disappointed or devastated because this is a competitive process and some schools get thousands of applications every year. So with that, because they're looking at so many applications and they're getting all these numbers, and a lot of times the numbers are very similar, it's often the other things in the packet that set you over the top, that make you stand out and become more competitive. So think about what you've done. If you are a senior or have already graduated, look back at what you've done as far as work experience, rework your resumes. I see student resumes and I'm like, this is okay, but you're just telling me where you work. I don't know what you did. I don't know what you learned. And we want to be able to shine and say, these are all the things I'm already coming with. And this is how I'm bringing value from the beginning. It's not about just creating your resume once you get into law school. So think about what you're doing or what you've done and make sure that you properly convey that. Look at some sample resumes and make sure that as you describe your jobs, that you're giving real depth and substance and telling what you contributed, not just a few bullet points about what you did, because you always bring something to the experiences you have. If you're still in school, I tell students, hey, we're looking at LSAT and GPA. So why you out here hanging out being mediocre? Mediocrity doesn't work. Everybody's not going to be a 4.0 student, but you got to work hard and put your best foot forward, because in law school, they're going to accept nothing less. And it's going to be so much harder. You want to make sure that you're preparing yourself now for the level of academic rigor that's going to come in law school. So really take things seriously. If you've had some bumps and bruises or kind of found yourself not as focused, if law school is the thing you want to do, now is the time to correct that. Because even if you don't have a high GPA, an upward trend in your GPA can work in your favor. Sometimes it just takes people a minute to catch on. Things are happening in life. Maybe you need some maturing, whatever it is. Law school admissions, people are going to look at, all right, maybe freshman year wasn't great, but what were you doing junior and senior year? So give yourself a fair shot in getting those higher numbers where you can. Also, your extracurriculars and your involvements have to make sense, right? So back to that thing, I don't know if you were told this coming out of high school, but it's not that you have to have 15 activities listed as your involvement, but whatever you're doing, make sure that you're bringing substance to it. Make sure that it's something you're passionate about and something that you can really get involved in, and it's something that will help you demonstrate what skills or aptitudes you have and who you are as a human being, and places where you can learn and grow and have experiences that are worth writing about in those personal statements, which are going to be very important. So another thing I tell students is think about what you're going to write about in your personal statement. It is not going to be why I want to go to law school. That's not what this is. It has to be something that tells us a lot about you, who you are, what you bring to the table, and how you intend to change the world when you come to law school. Everybody's writing. So you have to tell a story in a way that's going to make these people say, oh, I'm pulled in. Let me read this. I can see that student at my law school. And then recommendation letters. Some people ask folks for recommendation letters. They don't really know them. You do not want a recommendation letter from someone that you haven't had an opportunity to build a relationship with. So if you're still in school or if you're out of school, think about building relationships with professors. You're going to have academic references. And so you need to show up, office hours, talking in class, letting people get to know you. Some professors are really good, well, outside of pandemic, about meeting students for coffee and having other opportunities to engage, or being advisors to certain groups that you're part of. Think about the people who know you best, and not just for the sake of, I need a recommendation, I'm gonna ask Professor such and such that I had 3 years ago that I only talked to twice, right? Like raising my hand in class. So be strategic about the moves that you're making and how you're navigating your campuses and your outside world so that you can have people that can vouch for you and say, yeah, this is somebody you're gonna want in your program. So all those pieces come together. And again, while the LSAT is really important, it's not the only piece of the puzzle. And in fact, some people have really high LSAT scores and can still be denied admission to an institution because they didn't bring much else to the table. So make sure that you're finding a good balance.
You know, I just like that. Some people who have these high scores do get denied. And I just want to make sure that you guys understand that it is a package deal. Like it's for most schools, because not, and this is something that I didn't know when I was applying to law school. Not a lot of schools do interviews. Only select schools do interviews for going in, and I only applied to one school. Yeah, only applied to one school that did an interview process. So everything else, they have to know you by what's on the paper. And if you're not telling a compelling story, or if you have like all these grammar mistakes and all these other things in like your personal statement and whatnot,
Yeah.
it's already things against you as they're trying to build this class and things. And so just make sure that you guys are paying attention to what you're doing, who you're asking, and how much time you're giving yourself, because it's easy to tell when you've rushed the process, right? So make sure that you guys are focused on you and your goals and your expectations, because in order to get here, you have to, you gotta do the work.
Yeah.
But
I like what you said about the grammar. Let me throw this there too. Don't submit a packet and not have somebody look at your materials first. You know, don't be scared to ask for help. Preferably someone that is in the legal field, or at least an academic person, someone on campus. But don't just blindly send your stuff and think that you have to do it that way. Please believe the competition is getting a lot of support during this process, and there's someone there to help you. Just be bold, be willing to reach out to people, even if it's someone you don't know well. I can't tell you how many emails I get from undergrads. In fact, I got a group of girls I need to respond to, Lord have mercy, that I need to meet with. But yeah, people are willing to help you succeed. So don't feel like you got to be out on an island trying to do this yourself. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Moral of the story, don't do it. So we're gonna move the timeline now. So we've taken the LSAT, we've got our package together, and now law school. And one of the biggest things that, well, one as a minority coming in, but then two being a first generation law student, that I heard during like the whole process is, one, minority students get dismissed more than anybody else. So make sure you're on your stuff. But then two, law school is unlike anything that you've ever done before. And so you just won't be prepared. You just have to do. So my first question is because I know there are someone else listening, and 2Ls and 3Ls, if you haven't figured this out by now, we got to talk. But all right, cool.
We got to talk.
Right, what? What are some tips that you would give to someone in law school in terms of like how to be successful, how to stay on top and manage what they're supposed to be doing, and like figuring that out for themselves?
So one thing that I recommend is identifying resources that help you navigate this. So there are a lot of books on the market, websites, blogs, videos, stuff out there that's designed to share what the law school experience is. So if you're a pre-law student, aspiring law student, or a newer law student. So right now we're in the first semester for our first years. Tap into these types of resources, because one of the downfalls to this for certain populations is we don't have passed down knowledge about what this experience is, especially at the right points in time, right? So you get to law school and you have students who are second and third years who want to share information. But it's like there is so much information coming at you, and you're knee deep in trying to keep up with these hundreds of pages per week reading, and then make sure you understand what you're reading, and then prepare to participate in class. especially for those that use the Socratic method, you don't know what these people are saying to you. So it's best to be prepared at the outset as best you can. So I have a new book. I have several books on my shelf just by the nature of the work that I do, but I have a new book by Russell McLean, and I like his book, something like Belongingness in Law School or something like that. And it talks about, like a lot of the other books, what the expectations are, the demands, the time management, the type of information that you have to know, like what are the sources of law, what are the structures of the court systems, things like that that you may not have foundationally depending on what your academic major was in undergrad. Like you were a science type major, right?
Yeah, I was a science guy.
Yeah, so you might not have gotten all that information like some of the poli-sci majors may have. And that's okay because people are successful in law school from everywhere, but just making sure you have a lot of background knowledge going in. And then Mr. McLean's book, I like his because it addresses issues specific to minority populations and Black students in law schools, because there are, like everything else in the world, special dynamics and nuances that come with that. And so you have a lot of imposter syndrome and, you know, do I belong here? Am I as good as them? So there are things that are happening to you, be they self-imposed or be they things that are happening in your environment that are causing that. And it'll at least help you understand what you may face so that if it happens, you're not blindsided and beat down in a way that you can't pick back up and go through. You know, so get you some books or seek out online resources to tell you what is law school, because it is very different from any other type of school. You are responsible for your own learning. And for some people, that is not something that they adjust well to, especially because it's not just memorization learning, it's applied learning. And then the level of writing and thinking and analysis that has to occur is really hard for someone to teach you that. So you have to be prepared for what's coming at that point. And then you're gonna have to make some adjustments, like your little 5 or 6 hours of studying you may have done every week before, it's not gonna work here. So you have to look at what are the things that I have to do, like, you know, do I have to work out? Am I involved in church? What are those things that I can't let go of? And what are the things that are just extra that it's like, you know what, I'm gonna have to table this for a while so that I can put in these extra hours to make sure that I'm prepared for class and reading and showing up, right? Unfortunately, I can identify students who seem to be like hiding through the process, and it's like, okay, it's hard for me right now, but I'll figure it out by finals. That's not how that works. This is a building block process, and every week means something in law school. So you have to be willing to ask for help. You got to be engaged. You can't check out. You know, there are people, even for law schools that don't have someone in my position, there's someone there that can be support for you. And it's okay to say, I don't get it. Now you got to figure out who those trusted people are and find it out early. But it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to ask for help. Have those people on deck for when it's a meltdown moment. There will be some. And just understand not to hide from it, because in addition to being hard, law schools are somewhat of a mental health nightmare, just because your world shifts in ways that are just insane. And so you also have to have at the forefront maintaining your wellness and making sure that you're okay as you go through this process.
100% agree. Like everything she said, 100% agree. You just never, like, one, law school is already interesting because it's a competitive system, right? And so you're already being put to compete against your fellow peers that are also, in some instances, your friends. So it's just like a sense of healthy competition, but then some people can take it a little too far, and then it creates like these different things in you internally. So like imposter syndrome, and then there's other things that can stem from that. And if you've seen the podcast, you've heard some of those stories here and there. But it's just, law school is just, it's a different beast. Like Professor Ferguson said, I was a science major coming in. So like the things that I didn't get were writing, because writing is different in law school than it is in undergrad for me as a science major. But then two, I also didn't understand like the nature of the game. Like there's just some things that people can tell you guys until they're blue in the face, but until you get there, you just don't know and you don't understand. Like I remember my first set of midterms was, I think torts was the only one that was graded. And I had did pretty well on that exam. And I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. I don't have to worry about torts right now. And then as you get closer to the final, you're like, okay, wait, so huh? Like it's this whole shifting game. And it was like, and I was telling somebody this the other day, yeah, that's not the approach you want to take. That's not how you succeed. Even if you did well on like your midterms, if you have them or not, you want to still build on that foundation. So you want to ask the questions of, okay, why didn't I get these points? Or what did I miss? Read the sample answers, really go back and check those things out. It's a whole thing that I didn't understand in the beginning, but I got it and we're here now, right? It's all that matters. All that matters. Learn from my mistakes, everybody. Learn from these mistakes. But
Hey, you said something real interesting though about midterms, whether you have them or not. Midterms weren't a thing for me, right? I might have had one, and I don't even remember if that was graded, right? So, some professors still teach that old school style where you only get one shot at the end of the semester. So knowing that as a law student, again, back to getting information in advance because you don't want to be enrolled in law school before you know this, that's a possibility. So how do you prepare for one assessment at the end of the semester? Like you have no check-ins. You didn't be like, oh, I got to see on that paper. Let me come back strong on the next one. Like that's it. And so again, you don't have the opportunity to not be engaged in this process at any point during the semester. And you need to be talking to your professors or looking at resources if your law school has like a bank or something of old exam questions from professors. If they have something from your professor, you better use that. If you can avoid not having seen anything written by that professor to the end of the semester, that is going to serve you well because every professor is different, right? You can take one exam and be okay, and the next one, it's like, I don't even know what this question is asking me, right? So you need to make sure that you're preparing on an ongoing basis throughout the semester.
100%, all that. But Professor Ferguson, since you are the Director of Academic Success at Mizzou Law, when I did the program, my 1L year, what's now called Legal Foundations, wasn't called Legal Foundations then, but the program in a sense still had some of the same characteristics. So I had a quote unquote tutor for the most part for like the core classes that are offered to 1Ls, at least at Mizzou. Some schools differ from what they offer, but core classes. And it was helpful to me because I'm learning from, I think all of mine were 3Ls at the time, except for one, who was a 2L. And they were just basically, like teaching us the ropes of like, this is what the professor looks for. This is what you should start doing. And it also gave me a chance to do different practice exams. Not every school has that type of program. And I was identified for the program because I was out for 2 years. Other people can be identified for programs like that because of like LSAT or GPA, things of that nature. So based on what you've seen from like your pool of students thus far, what are some pitfalls that you think students aren't aware of when they start this journey and they start getting like the grades and they start trying to compete with their fellow peers? What are some issues that you see that you want to hopefully address with them and potential other listeners moving forward?
So again, I think one of the biggest issues is students who come in and one, they don't know what they're getting into, and so they haven't made any adjustments to how they utilize their time, right? And then two, back to the competitive thing, law school and the field, the transition from being a student to a practitioner is competitive, not only academically with grades, but also in how you're spending your time in law school. So sometimes I see students that seem to have identified that or been told that, and they jump right in and get involved in a whole bunch of stuff first semester, but they don't have any grades to solidify who they are as students. So you kind of like, I don't have time to do X for my academics because I have these commitments. And I'm like, well, I don't know what you want me to tell you because that's not going to fly with the professors. They're not going to hear that, well, I had this club or this competition or whatever. Like, it's absolutely wonderful to be doing those things, but you can't do it at the detriment to your studies, especially early on when you haven't gotten any feedback that tells you that you're mastering the process or at least functioning within the process, right? So that's part of it. Two is finding students that just aren't reading. Like, they're just not keeping up. Like, at some point they may have gotten behind and it becomes a stressor for them, so they get further and further behind. And so with the program that you're talking about, where you meet in groups with the, in our school as teaching fellows, it's clear when you show up for those groups and you haven't prepared. So it's like the teaching fellows can't help you work through this process when you're not doing your part on the outside. Like, those sessions aren't designed for them to come and spit back at you what you were supposed to get from class. It is for you to say, this is what I experienced in class when we were talking about this topic. I'm kind of confused on this point, or this is what I see this to mean. Is that correct? Right? So it's an interactive process that you're participating in. And again, law school is where you're responsible for your own learning. And while there are supports in place, you can't hide from that. You got to do the work. And again, there's nothing that will come after your law school experience or after each year when you go into internships that won't require work. So if you don't change your mindset and make sure that you're giving all that you have to give into this process, being successful is going to be a challenge for you. Meeting people. So we're in a special situation. We have partial in-person online. Some law schools are completely online. Like, folks didn't even go to the city where their law school is, right? So you're missing a lot of connections and opportunities to meet people and interact. So you have to be creative in doing that. Some students have identified other classmates and they have built study groups, or they do check-ins or social stuff, whatever you got to do. One, to be okay, and two, to continue to build community, because I wasn't great with people, right? Like, I had a social network, but school wasn't a place where I went to class and met a whole bunch of folks. And so I had to figure that out in law school, how to let the guard down and be comfortable enough to reach out, or, just to tap that classmate on the shoulder when touching was a thing and say, hey, did you get that? Or, this is what I think this said. Is that right? Or is that what you heard? And you have to learn and collaborate in that way. I was speaking with a student a few weeks ago that talked about having trouble building connections. And, I just work independently. It's like, okay, but guess what? When you get out there into the field, if you're going to practice law, you're not on your own. You have to work with groups and with people. So all of these things that we're trying to get you to do as a law student are things that are going to prepare you to be part of the legal profession. So you have to make those adjustments now. And again, just talking to people and figuring out how to create relationships with professors. They can be intimidating. And it's not on purpose necessarily, just some people are harder to approach because they're focused. Like, our law school, we have brilliant professors. Like, their minds are just insane. And I think some people are taken aback by it, or, I'm a smiler. Everybody's not a smiler, but that doesn't mean that they're not approachable. I just got that warm maternal type thing, right? But at this point in the game, there's money on the line. So you got to be okay feeling comfortable talking to anybody. You have to have the confidence to say, I am worthy of you having a conversation with me. Actually, I'm gifting you to be able to get to know me, right? So, understand that as a student, you're not a person that doesn't matter or without status, and you have to use the people around you to help you identify how to be the best at this thing that you.
Period. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break for some sponsors, because I like to pay my bills. And then we'll be right back with some more How to Get Away with the JD. And we're back. All right. So we've talked a lot to you guys about like the LSAT, getting here, what you should be doing in law school, and how to stay focused. There's one thing in particular that I want to debunk in terms of like the law school process before I get my selfish time in and talk about the bar, right? So one of the biggest things that people talk about all the time is outlining. You hear it 1L year, you'll hear it 2L year, 3L year. If you have to have finals, I feel sorry for you because I don't. But outlining is one of those things that people talk about all the time in terms of, oh, when should I be doing it? You hear things like, oh my God, you should be outlining from day one. Like when you get in that classroom every weekend, you should be updating your outline, blah, 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 blah. Or you have more casual, relaxed people like myself who may or may not have started their outlining 2 weeks before finals. It's fine. Here we are. It's okay. Learning experience, everybody. Learning experience. So, Professor Ferguson, what tips would you give to students in terms of outlining, preparing for outlines, and what to realistically think about in terms of like a timeline to start preparing and getting that together?
Mm-hmm. So I would definitely not recommend 2 weeks before exam time. That's probably not the best way to use that time. But I also pause at getting started right out the gate. I mean, I need to understand what exactly that means. If you're talking about first week or two of law school, I don't think it's going to serve the best purpose because you should be spending that time to adjust to the law school process. Like you're just getting in class, you're hearing from these professors for the first time, trying to figure out their flow, how they teach. Are they Socratic or not? Are you prepared for Socratic? Like, are you briefing cases and able to participate in class? So having this concept of an outline for the end of the semester at the onset when you're trying to learn how to be a first semester law student, I think that creates an added level of stress that is unnecessary. And it may result in you not doing the outline correctly because you really don't know what it is, right? So we do a session with one of our legal research and writing professors who loves the concept of outlining. So she does this session, which we did a few weeks ago for our first year students, but we did it at a time where they had enough information to go on so they could take the information she gave and apply it. Like she gives examples and things like that. And it's like, if you're in your first 1 or 2 weeks of law school, you don't have enough information for it. And then it's back to also using information and resources. So if you feel you're in a position where you want to get started earlier, go out there and see what are law school outlines, right? So people will tell you things, they'll use terminology, they may even show you their outline, but if you don't have the framework and the concept and the understanding of what it's for, it's just words on a paper and it may overwhelm you because the outline is not designed for you to take all the words that you have learned in law school and put them on a paper because you'll have something this big, right, that is going to do you no good when you're trying to study. So the outlining process is a learning experience. Sometimes we try to shortcut it. It's like, oh, such and such gave me an outline. Like I watch these movies about law school and I just get a kick out of it because it is just a thing. It has been like that for generations. Like, oh, okay, I got an outline from such and that's great. But the first question is, do you also know what grade such and such got? How do you know they process things appropriately in law school? Or are they giving you an outline full of bad information? Not intentionally, but you got to play your own game. Like you may be more on top of it than that person was. And here you are taking their information, cheating you out of an opportunity to shine with the information that you learned and grew. And again, part of learning for law school is that process. So when you go through this information and you do it in multiple phases, and then ultimately the outline should be broken down into something much smaller, attack sheets or whatever you want to call them, to help you, okay, when I have a question on this topic, this is how I should walk myself through it. It's more about than just saying I have an outline. So again, making sure that you have the right information, having the opportunity to work with study groups and other students and have conversations with professors to make sure that the information that you have is even coming into your mind correctly so that you don't convey wrong information on your outline. So it's something that you should do, but don't be caught up in doing it just for the sake of doing it. It has a purpose.
Facts. So I hope y'all took notes because now it's my turn to be selfish. And for all the 3Ls, I'm doing this for us because some of us just don't know, or some of us are now in the panic mode of, holy shit, what do we do now? Bar prep. Okay, all right. So we all know that the bar usually, for the most part, when it's not a pandemic and everybody's flustered and flying exams and other things back like months and months, is in July. And hopefully next year it is in July. So the prepping process starts a little bit sooner than I think most people think about, because if you're thinking about bar prep, you have to try to get those lowest prices as possible from the bar prep companies. Does your job pay for your bar prep? A lot of questions that you probably should be figuring out now if you don't know the answer to, right? But in terms of getting ready for the bar prep, there are levels to like your application and things that I think people don't really think about, that also are associated with money, fees, and just being overall prepared. And one of those, the biggest one, I think, is character and fitness, right? And depending on your jurisdiction, you might have to figure some things out. So starting with character and fitness and then moving into actual bar prep itself, what do you think are timelines to start getting your materials ready, start reviewing like the websites, figuring out what is needed, paying those fees? As somebody who's done this, had your class, you've done it, you've done classes for it. Like, what are some tips and tricks that you think students should start thinking about to prepare for that ever looming bar exam?
Mm-hmm. So that's a great question. I was having a conversation with colleagues about when to do certain things, and people are mixed in terms of when to introduce this information. I remember my first year of law school, we had a session on the bar exam, just kind of a overview, and it was really for the purpose of learning about character and fitness, because there are financial incentives to getting on top of that earlier, and I think it has to be before the end of your 1L year. So there's value in at least having the bar on your radar. It's a lot of other stuff going on, but ultimately that when you get to the end of the law school journey, there's a PS like portion of that. So you have a few more months. So at least having some exposure to what that is important. So that starts, if your law school doesn't have a program where they present it, the information is definitely available on the website for the Board of Law Examiners for the state where you'll take the bar exam. So there's a lot of information out there for those who are more proactive to go out and find, to learn what are costs. Are you in position to do those things now, or is that something you have to build upon? Just like in the back of your head, know that you're going to have to have money for a lot more than tuition. Especially when you get to the end, like it almost hurts your feelings, the amount of money that it takes to go from here. And it's like, wait, what? I'm talking about thousands of dollars. So just be ready for it. So understanding those pieces, and the whole character and fitness thing, like it's not a game. Like you have to really understand what your life path has been, because failure to provide certain information looks as if you're trying to conceal that information, and it turns into a whole thing. So you want to be able to be as accurate as possible. Of course, any type of criminal records, arrests, things like that they're asking, but certain issues that may be financial of nature or just other things that are out there. So be very self-aware, keep records of anything that may have come up that you feel might be something that they'll ask about. And again, getting on top of that earlier. So if you're not able to do it early, I would say at least think about it at the end of your second year. So you have to have people do references. So I've been getting letters from the boards of law examiners to do my references for people since early in the summer. Like some people are on it, and then it's an ongoing process. And it's really up to you when you do it, as long as you do it by the deadline. But you don't want to be in a situation where, say, something comes up that you missed and they send you a letter and say, hey, we found this, and doing your background check. And it's like, oh, I forgot about that. You may have to have a hearing or have some follow-up documentation or something. So you don't want to make an assumption that you can wait till the last day, turn it in, and everything's going to be okay, because this takes weeks or months even in some jurisdictions for them to get through that process. And it would be unfortunate to get through the bar exam and not get past character and fitness, because that'll hold up your actual licensure, right? So you can have passed the exam, but still not be admitted to the bar and able to practice until all these things are cleared up. This is very important. So the sooner you can get it out the way, the better.
Okay. Character and fitness, everybody. And bar, oh God. All right. So when it comes to bar prep, I know some companies, none of them pay me enough, so they should not be named. Have early access to like bar materials. Some companies ship, like if you've registered and everything before their first cutoff, you get your bar books in like February, things of that nature. So though the exam is in July, you have access to certain materials well before you even graduate. What are your thoughts on preparing for the bar early around like February, March, April, before oh, I graduate, here's like a day or so, time to start bar prep for the summer. How do you realistically and healthily think that students should start considering and preparing for that?
Mm-hmm. So that also depends on what their current workload is. Like everybody didn't get to do what you did and not have exams or whatever you got going on. They are still significantly into their law school curriculum. And while we would hope that by third year, everybody kind of has a handle on it and nobody's at risk of failing anything, you still have the time intensive, like 3L year, 2L year is like awful. 3L year, though, it depends on what you have going on. A lot of people at our law school, y'all work, y'all got all these different commitments, so some people, I'm like, you still stressed because you got all these hours where you're being pulled in all these directions. And so sometimes doing that early bar prep isn't as realistic, right? But if you have access to the materials, they give you an early bar prep course and you can devote some time, like a few hours a month. If you have, I'm able to do this for a little bit every weekend. However, you're able to do it, but it's not designed in a way that says you have to full-fledged be engaged in this the whole semester, because the reality is thousands of people pass the bar all the time with just the bar prep course. Right. So if you feel you can give more to it, great. If not, I'm of the opinion that if you do the bar course during the summer the correct way, you will have the tools that you need to succeed.
Okay. Speaking of the correct way, a lot of people say, well, one of the biggest myths is if you do like 80% of whatever course that you have, you're good. You don't have to worry about it. Some people also bring up like purchasing supplemental things outside of like your bar class to have. So what are your thoughts on that 80% myth, but then also doing and like getting more so like flashcards from like different places or like that supplemental work too?
Mm-hmm. It really depends on the person. So you have some people that do well with the supplemental flashcards. Some people use the material that they get from their course and make their own flashcards. So it just depends back to that, how we're learning. It's similar to the whole outline concept, right? I do it myself, or I can use other things that are available. I get products because people are trying to sell me stuff all the time. And some of this is some good looking stuff. The question is, will you really engage in that? And are you supplementing or are you trying to replace? Because I'm of the opinion that you cannot replace that course. First of all, people put so much thought into it and it's so many hours of content. It has to be there for a reason. And for me, I can read stuff, but I need to hear it. So going through the videos is a value for me. Some will argue there's an unrealistic expectation that everybody gets through these materials 100%. Some people do, I've seen it. Like I have a login, so I can see what all my students are doing in their courses. And some do better at completing and some don't. Some watch the videos, or at least they were logged into the videos. We don't know how much they got, but they're not necessarily doing all the practice assessments. And these companies have programs where you can submit essays and they'll give you feedback on your essays. Take advantage of that. Like, don't try to cheat the system. So I don't know. So I've seen people be successful on the bar without completing the course 100%. But then it's also, do you want to take that risk? And how good do you feel about the information? So I guess you got to go back to, what were your grades in law school in these classes? Did you even take those classes, right? Beyond the first year classes. So it's like, if you have no familiarity whatsoever with this material, you better make sure you introduce yourself to the content. Like I talked to someone who was unsuccessful, and he said, I didn't feel like I wanted to put a lot of time into this particular subject. I didn't take the class. It doesn't come up often on the bar because you got all these things. So one, don't try to cheat the system. You can look at all the historical information you want, but as soon as you decide that's not going to be on the bar, that's a question that's going to be on the bar. So you have a whole subject that you just blew off because you say, well, they don't test it often. Guess what? Today is the day, and you're unprepared. So don't find yourself in the situation. Give something to everything that is available. And even back to your early preparation. So you get these things from the bar courses, but you also have the National Conference of Bar Examiners. Their website is loaded with information. These are the people who write the UBE exam. And so they have in sections on how to prepare, they have full outlines on for the multi-state performance test. You know, kind of how they test that. These are the types of tests. So that's your practical, you know, the things that you don't have to have any memorized. You just have to go through this process. These are the types of questions you could get. That way you can practice doing those types of things under time circumstances at some point, because again, you don't have to have law memorized. Those are free points. And I think that's worth, I think about 20%. And I'm like, that 20% can make or break you. So practice, you know, you may have to do client letters or memos or whatever. Make sure that you familiarize yourself with each of those types of tests. And then for the multiple choice and the essay, they tell you not only what subjects are tested, but within those subjects, what are the subtopics, right? And so that kind of helps you look at, okay, I remember learning this, or no, my professor didn't cover that, so let me highlight this because I've never heard of that. And then, let me see what else. It's just loaded with information. And the best thing, I always say, go to the source. Like I said with the LSAT, go to the LSAT. Go to the NCBE website for the bar so you can see firsthand from them, this is what's expected. This is how we're grading it. You know, this is what it is. And then go into the commercial bar prep company's information, because you at least know the expectation first from the people that are going to be scoring and grading the exam. But so you got this. Like, it's a daunting thing. It's hard. It's hard. And it's like you kind of get your feelings hurt because you do 3 years of law school, you graduating, family come in town on a normal occasion. You know, it's time to party. I'm going on the cruise. I'm going to Mexico, whatever. It's like, no, you're not. Be easy. You need another 3 months to get through this process, and then we can party. But definitely devote to the party. And some people do different things, and for some it works for them, and for some it doesn't. But being consistent is the key. Like, they time you as far as at the beginning of the bar prep course in the summer, it says, okay, you have this many days. First of all, it'll make you crazy because the first thing to come on your screen is how many days you have left, and then how many hours per day you need to invest in this. So guess what? If you take a couple days off, those hours recalculate, right? So, you know, it may have been that you needed 7 hours per day, but you messed around because it's like, y'all got this online world. It's a gift and a curse. So it's like, oh, you ain't done nothing. All right. Now that 7 hours requires 10 hours because you took days off. You know, so it's all about endurance. It's about commitment, about discipline. And it's like, this is this last step. And people, I got to do this, girlfriend, mama, wife, whoever, I got to get this done so I can take care of us. And the people that love you will understand it. They may not be happy every day, but they'll understand.
I hope you guys were listening and taking your notes. Moral of the story is be consistent and do what you got to do, right? Okay, cool, great, awesome. So those are all the questions that we've had for Professor Ferguson for today. Thank you all for submitting your questions for the past couple of months, actually. So I feel bad, but you know, you got your questions answered now, so here we are, right? So I want to thank everybody for listening to another episode of How to Get Away with the JD. I want to thank Professor Ferguson for stopping by and being able to conversate with us and talk a little bit about what it takes to be successful before law school, during law school. And I like how she put the PS portion of it on the bar. So that's kind of how I'm going to refer to the bar. PS, I hate you. It's like the tagline that we're going for there. So make sure you guys stay tuned in with us. Like, comment, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Watch on YouTube. Share with a friend, because you never know who needs this information or who might need a little extra support to get through their journey. But until next time, guys, I will see you. Peace.